You're watching and listening to the Real Anime Podcast, and if you're wondering who that bloke is brushing his teeth, that is actually Lewis, our co-host here today, and my name is Mohnish, and we are today going to talk to you about Whisper of the Heart. Yes, that Ghibli film. Just give us a moment because Lewis is more concerned with his dental hygiene, and if any of you toothpaste lovers or toothbrush lovers are willing to sponsor our podcast, as you can see, we are willing to do advertisements like this. Lewis is brushing his teeth with, I believe, Colgate and some random ass brush. But it cannot be a random ass brush because you know why? If you sponsored us, that brush would be your brush. It would not be a random ass brush. So, big thinking, small rewards. At the moment, that's what we got. But we want to, make that bigger. Anyway, we are here today to talk to you guys about, well, I'm here to talk to you guys about Whisper of the Heart. Now, we will excuse Lewis a moment while he, you know, returns to his ability to talk. But aside from that, Whisper of the Heart is directed by Yoshifumi Kondo, who also did Grave of the Fireflies. So that is really one of those films, Grave of the Fireflies is one of those films that really just feels like it was made to make people cry. But Whisper of the Heart also kind of makes you cry, but it sort of lights this fire in you that makes you want to be more like impressed. It lights this fire that really gives you this idea of like chasing your dreams and being more honest with yourself and also not giving up, and also most importantly not giving up on your creative dreams. That is really at the core of what this film is trying to say. And I think, even though it's written by Hayao Miyazaki but directed by another director, so that's an interesting little juxtaposition we have here today. But Lewis has returned to us with a burning desire to tell you all what this film is about. So, Lewis, please jump straight in and tell the story of what to expect from Whisper of the Heart. What is the story about? Who are the characters? And why do we give a fuck?
So
I mean, why do we care?
I
We are a PG-13 podcast. No, I'm kidding.
uh-uh.
Just go ahead. We've had like 25 explicit episodes, so as far as I'm concerned, we still need to.
All
But
right.
yes, Louis, tell us first, what is Whisper of the Heart about? Like, just jump straight into it because we've already been introduced to you brushing your teeth. So let's get.
So let me tell you about the story itself of Whisper of the Heart. So as I was eating my buffalo patty bagel sandwich whilst watching the film itself, the story is basically about Shizuku, who's a student at school, who has aspirations to be a writer. She's not really the type of person who's very like academic keen, let's just say. She has a bit of conflict with her older sister, which her name is Shiho, and her two parents, because obviously the parents and the sister want Shizuku to have a good education, and they don't think that writing is like that sort of pathway which was, good for her future, right? But one of the things that the film taught us would probably be that, like, as what Monish said, you should chase your aspiration, you should chase your dream that you want to do. Because if you don't chase your dream, one fine day you might be 6 feet under and regretting that you did not take that next step in life.
Right. So, I mean, the story, like Lewis said, is something that's really close to both my and Lewis's hearts. It's literally the story about creative expression, chasing your dreams, and being better at what you do, which is what we're all about. And as indie filmmakers ourselves, that's a struggle I think we can really appreciate and relate to, because like Lewis is in the middle of editing his film, I'm in the middle of editing mine, and we all have these challenges, and it's always like there's a lot of room for doubt, and sometimes we feel like, hey, maybe this is not the right way to do things, or maybe I'm not doing enough. But Whisper of the Heart really reminds us that no matter what failures you go through, the most important thing is to not give up and to keep going, because that is really what makes the journey worth it, in the end. Wow, I became a motivational speaker this time. But the story is basically I love a certain storytelling device in this because it starts off with Shizuku noticing this name. She basically, like Lewis mentioned, she likes to write. So she also likes to read. And she visits the school library a lot. And she looks through all these books. And she notices every time she borrows a book, the same name is there, Seiji Yamakawa. And that name is always there, except for the latest book she bought. That she borrows, where she's the first person to borrow it. But then she flips it to the back page and it's been donated by the Amasawa collection, which is basically Seiji Amasawa's family name. And she's like, what? Who's this person? And she comes across a boy, and this boy is not necessarily rude to her, but he teases her quite a bit. And, there's a lot of these interesting exchanges of how she's writing lyrics for her school band or for the Glee Club. And, it's a parody on Country Road, which is called Concrete Road, and it goes something like concrete road all around me. I forgot the rest, but she
something
really
like
wrote
that,
a good
yeah.
one.
It's something like that.
Yeah. And Seiji Yamakawa reads this when Shizuku leaves the book on a bench unattended, and he basically starts teasing her about it, and they have a bit of a exchange, which kind of pisses Shizuku off. But then at the same time, Seiji is kind of like teasing her constantly, and he starts singing the song a little bit on a bike. And then there's this cat. And, there's so many things about Whisper of the Heart that really make it so endearing. But I will say, Whisper of the Heart, which I have not watched in years, and I mean, like, can't believe I'm old enough to say this, but over a decade.
Oof.
So I'm really returning to this film for the first time, like many people. But I realized that I have a really important relationship with Whisper of the Heart. And that is, she's the lo-fi studying girl.
I was just going to mention that.
My God.
I just realized that.
When I saw her, I lost my mind. I started like standing up and I was like, no, she's a lo-fi studying girl. You were there for me many a time during studying media law, Miss City, if you're watching, you, Mr. Roberto, if you're there. But I tell you what, I may not have studied good enough for media law, or media law had too many words, like too many things. But the lo-fi girl was there for me the whole time. Okay. Luis, talk about your relationship with the lo-fi girl for a bit.
Okay, I'll admit, I know who was the lo-fi girl. I mean, she was a big hit. I remember during COVID. Remember, she was like, I correct me if I'm wrong. She had like a stream going on for like 8 years plus. Minus.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know the exact timeline, but you're right. She had like a live video stream on YouTube.
I mean,
and she has her own profile on Spotify.
Yeah, correct.
And she also has a Discord server, which I am in. So what's up? I lived to study with Lo-Fi Girl during the end of my diploma days, which was basically during the pandemic era, when Lo-Fi Girl became a much bigger hit for me and was more important to my life. But yeah, I had no idea Whisper of the Heart was a part of such a phenomenon. So I kind of feel like, this is such an interesting film because it's written by Hayao Miyazaki, who is Mr. Ghibli, which is kind of insulting in some ways because he's done way more than what Ghibli could ever accomplish, but he is Ghibli and Ghibli is him, so that's kind of fair actually. But it's not directed by him. It's directed by another director. And also I feel like this is one of those few Ghibli films where the film actually feels very down to earth, grounded. There's no like flying demon or the classic fantastical elements that a Ghibli film would give you. And it's kind of very down to earth. It's very realistic in some ways, and it feels like a story I could do in live action. But I love the fact that it's an animation. But yeah, but Lewis, what do you think about this story? And
so it's certainly down to earth. Really, I really like the just the simplicity of it, and just like simple moments such as when like what's her name, Shizuku spotted a cat, and then the cat literally reminds me of my dog Elvie, who likes to go ronda ronda. For all you know, she's probably at Monish's house right now. And then like the cat like literally just brought her to this like antique shop in a way. And the story itself kind of almost reminded me of like Kiki's Delivery Service, right? Something like a film like that. Or maybe another film that we all know and love, which we did an episode about it like a few months back, which was Spirited Away.
I'm sorry, I have a question.
Go.
Did Kiki's Delivery Service come out first, or did Whisper the Heart come out first? I'm just curious.
Let's actually Google that for a moment. Because, okay, so Whisper of the Heart came out in 95. Right?
Yeah.
Kiki's... I'm just checking. Okay, Kiki's Delivery Service came out in 89.
And that's directed by Miyazaki, right?
I think it was directed by... Yep, correct. Hayao Miyazaki. So there you go.
Okay, so that's probably why he
Yeah.
did not direct this. In my opinion, yeah. And actually, I will say this draws some similar lines for me as well. Not to compare myself to the great Hayao Miyazaki, because that guy's a freaking god. But I recently wrote a short film, which I'm not directing, that is really similar to the first short film I wrote, which I also did not direct. Which were the first short film I wrote that I did not direct was Caffeinated Killer, officially lah. And a recent one that I wrote that is being directed by another friend of ours has some really striking similarities to Caffeinated Killer in many, many ways. 3 bullies, 1 student being bullied, a girl in there who's his companion, and I was like, oh wow. I just literally in this moment realized that. But yeah, I mean, that's an interesting point, actually. But Lewis, how do you think this film really feels? Because there's not much of that fantasy element that's so normal for a Ghibli film. But how do you think that works for this film?
I mean, this film itself did not really contain a lot of the fantasy elements like you would associate in, like, let's just say, like a Spirited Away or something. However, I think that maybe the rawness or the raw approach of this film, just like take certain examples. For example, like when Shizuko was basically like started to date that bloke over there. His name what's his name? Let me make sure I say his name. Seiji, right? Seiji. I just had to double check to make sure I don't butcher the name for every. I know the character's name, but I need to remember how to say it properly, right? So
got you. There's Shizuku, and then there's Seiji, the lovebird.
The lovebird.
And apparently, I'm Shizuku. But Luis, that's actually a good question. Actually.
Oh, now we're changing the question. Now we're changing the question. Now a bit question.
Yeah, because I'm very curious. You answered that question, the first question first, then you answered this one.
So, see, in the real anime podcast, guys, you have a lot more plot twist than a K-drama itself. You have a plot twist and a plot twist and a plot twist, basically. So the question is, you're wanting to know why am I comparing you to Seiji? Okay.
I don't know, Seiji or Shizuku.
Okay, okay. To answer your question, I think that you are literally Shizuku. Reason being, okay. Now, hang on a minute. Hang on. Yes, Shizuku is a girl. You're a bloke, right? So the reason why I see the comparison, okay. Now, take the gender out of the equation, all right. You just take the character arc itself, right? Because we've been friends for almost. That's something for you guys to know in the comments lah. For X amount of years, let's just say. And when growing up itself, you remember that like we both did not know how to study, right? I failed maths at least 5 times. You passed it on the 5th time or whatnot. I remember. It reminded you on the 4th time. Sorry, I think I was the one who did 5 times, but never mind. As long as you know what's 2 + 2, that's good enough. But like I reason why why okay, never Monish is just being Monish. But it just reminded me, right? Like, how like when we were both studying, we were absolutely awful at studying, but we excel in other things. So the comparison kind of draws to like how Shizuku was basically like aspiring to be a writer herself, right? And in a way, it just reminded me of you because I knew that you were the type of guy like every time I see you at the center that we always study at, like this place in Kajang itself, right? It's just like I remember that you did not like to study, but I always see you on your laptop watching films. From time to time, I always see you watching films because I remember that you was there from like for like 12 hours a day, like let's just say more or less. All right, I'm kind of like exposing Monish's like early childhood stories here, but the past is the past. But nevertheless, that's why I drew the inspiration from, right? You're like this film geek, right? Who loves to eat, and then we had a lot of eating sessions and whatnot. And I knew that like one of these days, like you would probably aspire to be like a film writer or in a creative field itself. Now do you see the comparison that I'm trying to make? He's absolutely gobsmacked that he can't even speak himself, ladies and gentlemen. So with that being said, I'm gonna let Monish take it over. Not ending the
I mean,
episode.
like, yeah. No, I mean, like, look, that was a lot about me right there, but it's all right. You'll enjoy. I think like that's one. Maybe that's why these characters resonate so well with me and Lewis, because it really feels like a reflection of who we are sometimes, and because both of us are really trying to push ourselves as filmmakers and in the creative genre, music, cinematography, once in a while graphic design. Yeah, there's just such an interesting thing for me here. Like, for example, I love some of the supporting characters in this film. Like Nishi, the shop owner. I actually quite enjoyed him as a character because he had like this. He was like he really felt like a character of like Hayao Miyazaki. Even though Hayao Miyazaki did not direct this film, he did write it, and I thought Nishi as the shop owner who brought Shizuku in and showed her the Baron, which was this cat statue with his gleaming eyes, and then really introduced, and then you find out, oh, he's Seiji's grandfather, or something like that, and it's like so many different things, and such a deep well of like this supporting character that this character is written so well that I was like, wow, he's only supporting. But one thing I want to draw some attention to that I really enjoyed was Hayao Miyazaki's taste for architecture and how that seems to like travel across to the directors he chooses to direct his projects. Because even Seiji Amasawa's house, which was basically behind the antique shop, was also quite unique, where you have to go through a small gate and then you can see the whole city from the top of this hill, and then you go in through the back, and it's like, I don't know, an interesting commentary on like architecture there from Miyazaki and the directors he works with. So but I feel like one of the things this film really attracted me, or that really attracted me really, was the music. Now, the music itself, when I started watching, like the first 2 minutes, the original song Country Road plays. And I thought my Spotify had gone. And I was like, wait, hold on. What's happening? And I realized, no, it's coming from the film. I'm like, oh, shoot. I've never seen a film use such a great song in that way that is in a different language. Okay, no, that feels a little bit primitive, but it's like usually anime, especially, is famous for having such banging soundtracks or such beautiful soundtracks. Like if you look at anything from Your Name, Garden of Words, or any of the series, Jujutsu Kaisen, Boku no Hero, and Naruto, you have all these amazing like theme songs. But Whisper of the Heart chooses a famous Western song called Country Road. And not just chooses the song, but parodies the song in the film. So to me, that I find that to be a very interesting addition to the story. Like Lewis, how do you feel about Country Road's addition to the Whisper of the Heart story?
It's certainly an interesting element. I still remember singing that song when I was absolutely drunk, like back in the days, but now no more, of course. The song itself, I mean, you take the lyrics like "Country Roads." Okay, I better not sing, then I'm gonna get copyrighted by Spotify or whatnot, or YouTube or what. I don't want to get copyrighted, but like
you can sing Concrete Roads.
concrete road. But okay, nevertheless, the song itself, like if you really dissect the lyrics itself, I mean, if you watch the reel, "Country Roads Take Me Home," I'm gonna compare it to like the reel that we just uploaded. Whenever you guys are watching this, all right. So like when I like heard the song itself, like for the first, let's just forget about the film itself, but "Country Roads" itself, the song itself, I mean, like it's a song about maybe just going on a long journey, going back to your own like hometown, and then you need to take this long roads, and then imagine just having this song playing in the background itself. Then like the song itself kind of just like mimics like how, like, better Shizuku, right? I need to make sure that I don't say the wrong name by accident, then before, I'll be naming one of the characters on Sonatine. But with that being said, right, the episode, sorry, the song itself, right, I think it's just a perfect way to describe how like Shizuku's journey is like, related to this song, as it being like one stretch of long road itself, not knowing when the end journey is going to happen. But you could say it's like going on a road trip, right? When you go on a road trip, sometimes your tire pancit. You change the tire. No more petrol. You put petrol in. But then you realize you ran out of but then you realize that you put in RON 97 instead of RON 95, like how Mohnish made that mistake the other day. so you can see that, like, how the song itself kind of like makes you think of like the unexpectedness of being on a road trip journey, and it's just like comparing it to Shizuku's journey itself on her way of, like, her journey of becoming a writer. Mohnish is just over there just thinking like, that was 200 ringgit worth of money gone, and I think he ate ice for the them remaining days.
Yep, money has been a struggle. Petrol's just flying up. But I do think what else is flying up is how iconic Whisper of the Heart really is, because I've seen this anime scenes cut together in tributes, with songs and all these things. So it's like really interesting to me, because I'm like, this anime has been everywhere my entire life, but it's just been here doing stuff that like feels like, I don't know, like I don't think this anime is really appreciated enough. I feel like this anime really has a lot to offer. I really hope that this anime is brought into 4K remastered rerun in cinemas. Like I recently saw Edward Young's Yee in a 4K remastered cut as well. So I think like just having this there really would be amazing. And I feel like the one thing that Whisper of the Heart really gives us as an ending message is, start something before you're ready and learn through the process. Never give up and always do your best. And even though you may not think you have something right now, the important thing is you must try and make it into something. And I believe like Shizuku doubted her writing so much, and Seiji is going off to make violins, and they both receive encouragements and their own challenges to achieve these dreams of theirs. But either way they persevere and they stick with it. So I think that to me is one of the most important lessons I learned from A Whisper of the Heart. And Lewis, did you learn any important lessons from this film before we end off?
Yeah, I mean, the most important lesson that I learned from this film is if you're gonna try something new, just try it. What's the worst that can happen? You make a mistake, you learn from the mistake. You succeed, you learn from your success. Just like the other day when I, went to the supermarket and I accidentally bought buffalo meat instead of beef. Because in Malay, right, daging is meat. But then I had no idea what was daging kebab. So you know what
Did,
I learned?
buffalo meat cost more?
It was about 11 ringgit 70. I was using the my Rama thing.
How many grams?
About 400 grams.
Okay lah.
So the mistake I learned is sometimes in your biggest mistakes might be the best thing that has ever happened to you in life. And that, my friend, for the buffalo meat itself, a good buffalo died that day, for it to be in my stomach right now. And I must say that was the best mistake I've made. And all I can say is I enjoyed eating my buffalo bagel whilst watching this film. But okay, I know that's a bit off topic. We're talking about a buffalo where my maths teacher used to call me water buffalo and Mohnish buffalo here.
So the lesson learned here is that Seiji is the buffalo. I mean, no, I'm no, but I really feel like what Lewis said as well. Understanding how to make a choice and living with it, but also adapting to it and doing your best. Whether you're buying Ron 97 or daging kerbau or whatever it is, you can make the best of it and to never give up. And I think that is really what Whisper of the Heart really tells us, right? And I feel like everyone should watch this film. I know that's the most everyone says that, but at the same time, I really do feel everyone should watch this film because you will be really inspired, and it's a great film to watch with people or with yourself, and just sort of understand what it's like to chase a dream, and how serious that actually is for some people, and how much purpose that can really give your life. And to be honest, that's one of the things I love the most about this film. But until then, we will be signing off. Thank you very much for listening to this podcast and watching Lewis brush his teeth. Please, like I said, sponsorship. You know how it goes. Oh, this is gonna come out like a few weeks later, but I might as well say it now, which is to say a big thank you to our audience for interacting with us on Spotify and on YouTube. Where on Spotify we're at 183 Spotify followers now, so that's amazing. Thank you very much. We will do our best to keep it up. It's a really encouraging sign. Thank you so much. The Violent Cop episode seems to be doing very well, so I'm sure Lewis will be very happy. And
yeah.
Also, we also both would like to thank you for your support on Instagram, where our Violent Cop reels have been doing very well. One of our reels recently touched 3,000 views. So that's kind of huge for us, to be honest, because we've never had that. So amazing. And lastly, a bit of newer news. I recently released a video essay on the Film Major about Violent Cop to try and help promote our podcast even more, and that in the span of 2 days has over 1,000 views. So thank you very much for that support. I will try my best to keep doing more. But until then, thank you so much for supporting the podcast. Thank you so much for being here with us, and we should have more anime coming up soon, I will say, because we both just realized there was an anime we did not review, but one we liked a lot. We'll save that for the next one. But until then, thank you all so much, and we will see you in the next one.